You can listen to The Professional Left wherever you get your podcasts, on Netroots Radio, or at our website, proleftpod.com. You can also contribute to this podcast. There's a PayPal button at our website, or you can mail us a letter and or contribution at P.O. Box 9133, Springfield, Illinois, 62791.
This is The Professional Left After Dark, obviously, and it's the podcast for the week of October 31st, 2025. It's not safe for work.
And I'm babying my voice a little bit, but we're still recorded live from the Cornfield Resistance, where in solidarity with our Republican brothers and sisters who are aching for liberals to move to the fucking center already, we've agreed not to reconvene the Professional Left podcast until Mike Johnson has given us the okay. It's the Professional Left with Driftglass and Blue Cow.
Yeah, we're not going to do that.
No, we're not going to do that. No.
Fuck Mike Johnson.
Fuck them all. Fuck them all.
But, guys, since today is Driftglass's birthday.
Yes, it is.
And, you know, if I wanted to nurse my voice and go full Marilyn Monroe with happy birthday to you.
That's After Dark, Blue Cow.
That's definitely After Dark.
That's the after show, Blue Cow. That's the
Excuse me.
We're both playing sick, so
we're both still under the weather, and Driftglass sounds disturbingly like a cross between Broderick Crawford and RFK Jr.
I do, so I don't like that to inflict that on you. So I'm trying not to.
Look, we kind of just put the show together, and we're going to be kind to Driftglass and keep it as brief as we can. And I'll probably be doing a lot of the talking today.
Yes.
And I've told Driftglass to just send up a flare if he needs me to continue on and talk while he recovers or takes a drink or whatever. So,
see, gentlemen, a strong man is not afraid to let a woman do the talking.
See? So there are just a couple things we'd like to talk about today.
And first, we're going to try like the Dickens not to use any fancy words, we swear, because we have been sternly lectured by the leaders of the Democrats must accommodate stupid, angry white bigots tidal wave of pundits that's coming your way, that angry, white, 52-year-old men with no college education are the face of the average American voter. And that if Democrats ever want to win again, we must bend to their will. So no fancy talk, Blue Gal. Eschew fancy talking, Blue Gal.
Second, we've also been sternly lectured by these same pundits that if Democrats ever want to win again, we must become tough-talking maverick holders of bold, heterodox opinions.
Yes.
Heterodox? Really?
Yeah.
So when it comes to the Trump-Epstein shutdown, here's a bold, heterodox opinion for you.
All right, pop quiz. Airport, gunman with one hostage. He's using her for cover. He's almost to a plane. You're 100 feet away. Jack.
Shoot the hostage.
What?
Take her out of the equation. Go for the good wound and he can't get to the plane with her. Clear shot.
You're deeply nuts, you know that? Shoot the hostage.
We're the party that actually cares about the poor and the working class. Republicans do not give a shit about the poor and the working class. And no matter what deal Republicans offer, we all know that Trump will renege on it and Russell Vought will claw it all back before the ink dries.
That is correct.
If they can get away with it.
And why wouldn't they? Because they have majorities in both houses.
And I promised people on Tuesday that we were going to scream about ACA.
Yeah. And we will.
You know, and we will. Our insurance is scheduled to go from about $700 a month to $2,700 a month.
Yeah. Yep.
Just for me and youngest child.
Yeah. I'm on Medicare. So
he's on Medicare now. But yeah. And what happens if they come up with a deal and Russell Vought just says, no, I'm not going to pay? That money goes to insurance companies, not to me.
Right. Exactly. Yep.
So you're looking at a crisis of multiple levels here.
As with all things, I think we've been pretty honest over the last 15 years. We live in the real world where insurance is a pain, where you would sit by the computer in tears as the exchange opened and wobbled and broke and Republicans threatened to take it all away over and over again. We have a special needs son who needed scheduled drugs, and it cost a lot of money. And it was They just played with our feelings. This is why we're not inclined to give them anything, because they're fucking sadists. And
held a beer party the day that the House voted to take away my health insurance.
And why have they traditionally gotten away with being sociopaths? Because they've always known that since we Democrats actually care, if they just inflict enough pain on people who are powerless, if they can just starve enough people, hurt enough people, screw over enough people, which their base loves. They stand up and cheer at the thought of USAID letting millions starve all over the world because Donald Trump is an asshole. Eventually, because we care, we'll have to accept their terms. But not this time. This time, knowing Republicans will try to blame Democrats no matter what, that they'll use the entire apparatus of the conservative hate machine to blame us, and the legacy media will go right along with it as they've been doing all along. It's time to stand aside, sadly, and let the full weight of Republican sadism land on the backs of the American public, which cannot be bothered to pay attention to what their government is doing and who's doing it, apparently in any other way or under any other circumstances, which is a tragedy.
It's like Bill asked us earlier this week. Is it going to take this much pain to wake people up? And the answer is yes.
Yeah, it will. It'll take people in red states starving and asking, where the fuck is my food? Where's my health care? How am I going to feed my kids? And us all saying, the man you voted for is starving you because he's a fucking sociopath and he hates your fucking guts, with one voice. Yep. That's what it's going to take.
Well, and given that Donald Trump has taken credit for running the entire government, said he can do whatever he wants over and over again, there's no other answer to it except that, of course, Trump can fix it if he wants to. He's got all the power, right?
No, because Democrats are always to blame. You keep thinking these are logical adult human beings. Mm-hmm. They're children. They're pack animals. They're trained monkeys. They will believe whatever they're told. Donald Trump has all the power in the world, can do whatever he wants, bomb the shit out of people on the open sea and get away with it. But when it comes to shutting the government down, there's Mike Johnson saying, Democrats want to hurt your families. We're powerless. We can do nothing. And the people that we're going to be asked to persuade, accommodate, bend over to, will believe it because they are reprogrammable meatbags. Anyway.
Now, a few thoughts on the report deciding to win toward a common sense renewal of the Democratic Party. This is that report that we talked about last Thursday. We talked about an article that rebutted this report.
Right.
Specifically, how they botched the stats on moderate versus progressive candidates in swing districts, which was one of the pillars of their findings.
Yeah.
Today, we can talk about all the hidden assumptions behind this very well-funded report that the Bulwark and the crooked media kids are crazy about, and Politico's crazy about. They're drooling over it. They're touting it as having, quote, and this is from Politico, input from a who's who of top Democratic consultants, including David Axelrod, James Carville, David Plouffe, a top advisor to former Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign, Liz Smith, and former Biden White House spokesperson Andrew Bates, as well as analysts and strategists like Nate Silver, Sarah Longwell, and former Rep. Sherry Bustos of Illinois. The report is less an autopsy of the 2024 election. It spends a scant 5 pages on the former President Joe Biden's and Harris's campaigns, and more so an indictment of the party's leftward shift since the Obama administration and the donors, campaign operatives, and progressive advocacy groups the authors blame for putting Democrats in an unwinnable position. It largely echoes what moderate Democrats have been saying loudly for months, that the party should be running to the center and focusing on kitchen table issues, unquote.
Yeah. Not a word about 40 years of Republican propaganda, about Rush Limbaugh, about Fox News, about brainwashing, about the fact that, in fact, let me break down in as calm a voice as I can what I took out of this huge report. First, the demographics of the average voter, according to Sarah Longwell, who's a co-author of this report or contributed to it, who loves it. The Bulwark crew loves it. The average voter, the people that we must accommodate some way is white, male, in their 50s, and has nothing more than a high school education. And one of the things that I'm going to ask our bulwark allies to a circle, I would ask them to help me square, because I cannot square this circle, is the average voter, according to these statistics, the low information voter, what we call the stupid voter, the ignorant voter, the clueless voter, has no idea what the fuck is going on. And you can listen to their focus groups, have no idea who runs the country, who's responsible for what, how government gets done. And I'm going to do a little cheat. If we were doing a video blog, you would see in my hand a small blue book that is distributed by the American Civil Liberties Union. It is 33 pages long. Its cover page is about the size of a playing card. And it is a copy of the Constitution of the United States. It is a tight read, a quick read. It's got all the amendments, got everything. This little blue book is what Republicans used to wave in our faces all the time about why it's so important, why we fucking love the Constitution. Do you have your pocket Constitution? Can you show me the pocket Constitution? This is the little tiny book that the average voter has no fucking idea exists and does not care about.
Except for the Second Amendment.
Yeah. In my other hand, I'm holding the Owner's Manual for a Skill Table Saw, model TS6307-00. It's a very simple table saw. I now own it. I love it greatly. It works exactly the way I want it to. If the average voter were to be handed this, I assume a white male who works with his hands, who's in his 50s, probably has some power tools. The instructions for how to use this single power tool runs 52 pages long, and the book is the size of a paperback book. And I guarantee you that the voter who cannot trouble themselves to bother to learn how the fuck their country works, that we are supposed to accommodate their ignorance, will not operate a power tool without knowing goddamn well how it works, how to operate it safely and not lose a finger or not get kicked back on the wood and have their eye put out. They cannot trouble themselves to read a tiny book on their country, but will damn well read. So this is all voluntary. They choose to be this ignorant. They choose to be this stupid. They choose to listen to Fox News, which leads me to the third part, which is this report is festooned with the word perceptions and opinions. Voters' opinions are this, and their perception of Democrat. The perception is that Democrats don't give a shit about what they care about. But Democrats care about other things that they don't care about. Now, here's the circle I would like our bulwark friends to square for me, because I know that they listen to this podcast, and I know that Tim Miller responds to me because he responded to me today on Blue Sky when I asked questions very much like this. And he was very snippy, I must say, which is very simple. If the average voter that you're referring to, white, male, high school education, 50s, has no fucking idea how anything works, is so fucking clueless that they have no idea what Trump does on a daily basis, or are completely cool with what Trump is doing, where the hell do they get their opinions about what Democrats are up to, what Democrats are talking about the fancy language that we use behind closed doors? How do they learn those things? Those perceptions don't come out of thin air. They are gleaned from somewhere, and I guarantee you it's not from Democrats. Right. I guarantee you 9 times out of 10, it's from some fucking clip from some fucking Democrat's much longer speech that is played to death on Fox News. And the bulwark crowd knows this because they used to do this.
Yeah.
This used to be their fucking job. Drilling into the morons that Democrats are baby-killing commie monsters was how they made their fucking living. Right. So how fucking dare they turn around and say, well, these people just don't understand nothing, and you're going to have to accommodate them. You built these people. These are your offspring. These are your monsters. And at long last, your solution to us is we have to give up what we fought for to accommodate a bunch of morons and zombies and sadists that you created. And just, there's nothing else to be done. Can't do anything but that. And finally, this positively reeks of the same moneyed interests and beltway consultants who wildly misunderstand the American political landscape that led to the creation of something called the 2013 Republican Autopsy, which was co-authored by Tim Miller of The Bulwark. Does anyone remember how that autopsy turned out, Blue Gal?
Yes. This is from NPR, July 16th, 2020. July 16th is my birthday, by the way.
It is your happy birthday in advance, Blue Gal.
July 16th, right.
Yeah.
Quote, just under 8 years ago, Republicans were recovering from a stinging presidential election loss after Mitt Romney lost to President Obama by 126 electoral votes. And so the GOP produced a 2013 report that came to be known as the Autopsy, laying out how the party should move forward, most notably that it should expand its outrage to communities of color, women, and young voters. Flash forward to this spring when Romney marched in opposition to police brutality and declared that Black Lives Matter. A voter who had somehow missed all political news from the past 7 years might look at Mitt Romney marching with Black Lives Matter supporters and think the party was closely following the autopsy. But then that is not where the rest of the party is, and it's emphatically not where the president is. In fact, President Trump mocked Romney for marching with those protesters, and Romney is himself one of the president's loudest elected Republican critics. Meanwhile, Trump is currently well behind Joe Biden with non-white female and young voters, and he won in 2016 despite losing those groups by sizable margins. That's not the only way he defied the autopsy, which also specifically recommended a comprehensive immigration overhaul. Trump, in his 2016 campaign, infamously portrayed immigrants crossing the border from Mexico as dangerous. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, he said in his campaign announcement speech. And some, I assume, are good people. Today, the autopsy is a window into the GOP's internal divisions, as well as pressures that some fear will hurt the party for generations to come. When then RNC Chair Reince Priebus unveiled the report in 2013, he was frank. Things had to change. If there's one message I want everyone to take away from here, it's this. We know that we have problems. We've identified them and we're implementing solutions to fix them, he said. Today, one of the autopsy's 5 authors thinks the fixes didn't work. Former Republican strategist Sally Bradshaw, who has since left politics and the party, calls the report obviously a failure, unquote.
Yeah. This was...
I'm not sure where to insert this question, Driftglass.
Right here, baby. Right here.
I've said this before, but I'm wondering if the lesson that Democrats need to learn to reach out to the 5% of these white male 50-something non-college educated voters who might switch and might actually flip a state. You don't know. Sometimes elections are close. Mm-hmm. It's simply, we got to have a white penis at the head of the ticket.
Could be.
That's and we lose when we put women on the ticket. And we lost when we put a black woman on the ticket. We lost when we put a white woman on the ticket. The problem is men won't vote for a woman for president, period.
Those men will not vote for
those men.
Yeah.
will not vote. And at some point, I mean, Gerald Ford.
Yeah.
This is going back.
Yep.
Said the first woman president would be a vice president who.
Yeah.
When the male president passed away.
Yeah,
would come to be the president, and that then everybody should watch out,
right? Because
it would become clear that women could run the country.
Yeah.
We would have that experience that way, but he didn't expect that we would initially elect, even though many other countries have done it.
Yeah, yes, they have.
There's just too much, I think, lack of education and a media that has a very strong Joe Rogan element to it.
Yep.
We're just not going to let a chick take over the country that way.
Well, what did we hear Rush Limbaugh call these women?
Feminazis.
Feminazis for 30 years.
Yeah.
That's where the average white male voter who didn't go to high school, that's what he heard. Yeah. They heard on Fox News. It's not a surprise that they turned out this way. This is how they got built. And again, I have to ask the question. These are people whose last attempt to drag a party to the center failed spectacularly because they didn't understand their own fucking party. They had no idea.
And that's what the autopsy was, wasn't it? Yeah. It was an attempt to drag the Republican Party to the center.
Because they couldn't possibly go right. or
right,
be
and
crazy.
reach out to Hispanics and reform immigration.
Right? Do the things. March in the Black Lives Matter. Do all the things. And it failed spectacularly because people like the Bulwark crew, people like the consultants who built this, fundamentally did not understand their own party. They never did. They pretended their party were a bunch of yeoman farmers who believed in balanced budgets and read Edmund Burke, and they never were. And they didn't listen. They refused to listen to those of us who said, no, we live among them. Let us tell you who they are. Let us tell you the monster you are creating. And now the same sorts of people have once again gathered together to form the same sort of report saying Democrats who clearly have no idea how people like Democrats actually think and behave and act and what motivates us, just to tell us your job is to move to the center. Your job is to moderate. That is what you should do to win elections. The same people are touting this report that touted the 2013 autopsy. So let's get back to the exciting episode of Decision to Win, which, let's face it, could have been cranked out by any of the Third Way, Purple Project, Forward Party, Country Over Party, No Labels, print shop garbage at any point in the last 20 years. Last week we did a montage of all the people. Robert Reich actually did it. A montage of all the people who said Democrats have to move to the center, to the center, to the center, to the center. It is just accepted Beltway wisdom that no amount of facts or debate will change.
Do you think that means just nominate a white guy? Or do you think that there's some substance to what they're suggesting that we do?
I think they don't want to own up to what the Republican Party really is. I think that we've said a million times on this podcast, or 100 at least, the Republican Party doesn't have a Trump problem. It has a voter problem.
Yeah.
Their voters are awful people, brainwashed people. Their voters nominated a fucking corrupt sex pest, criminal, fascist 3 fucking times and voted for him twice and are happy with what he's doing despite the fact they're getting fucked by him. They're irrational, base animals and cannot be reasoned with. And I think if you want to say, look, we have to get some of their votes, do what Trump does. Lie to them. Just lie to them all day long. Make shit up. Offer, I said this on Blue Sky today, offer to do public executions. When the Democratic president promises to hunt down the people who made this country bad and use the military to try them and execute them publicly or send them to prison. Just make shit up. Because some of them might think that's really cool. Joe Rogan might just get rock hard at the thought of that. Because you can't reason with them. I'm sorry, 40 years of history have proven that they built a doomsday machine that you cannot reason with. And every attempt to say Democrats must do X runs smack up against a brick wall that says, but Republicans are out of their fucking minds, all the way down to the grassroots. And the fact that these voters explicitly, according to this report over and over again, don't really care about democracy should have been raised a whole lot more alarms and been worthy of a whole lot more pages than it got, especially since the first paragraph of the executive summary of that report reads as follows.
And I'm going to read that. I'm going to save your voice and I'll read that.
Thank you very much, babe. I appreciate that.
Quote, Donald Trump and the Republican Party are damaging our economy and threatening our democracy. Their tariffs are raising prices, hurting businesses, and costing jobs. Their legislative agenda, which pays for tax cuts for the rich by cutting health care for the poor and massively increasing the national debt, hurts all Americans and risks our country's future. Their continued attacks on the rule of law are unacceptable. Defeating Republicans at the ballot box in 2026 and 2028 is a moral and political imperative, unquote.
So the question is, this average white man of 50, since those are all facts that we agree with, does that person not give a shit about that? Do they approve of that? Are they unaware of that? Because there's no answer to the question other than they're too stupid to realize what their party's doing and don't care, or they approve of a fascist running the country into the ground as long as it hurts liberals. There's no third answer that makes this make sense. And by the way, where are the interviews with Democrats? Where, not David fucking Axelrod, who's figured prominently in this report, but actual Democratic base voters like you and me, Blue Gal. Where are those focus groups? Where are those safaris into the American interior by major news networks to find out what Democratic voters think and why we think what we think. Because it's always the job of Democrats to accommodate the ego and the bigotry, the stupidity and paranoia of fragile white men. And if you don't believe me, go take a look at the entire Obama administration.
Now it's time to talk about a piece of right-wing propaganda. Right-wing outlets are all over this video that surfaced. Now let's be clear, it was leaked by a Republican on the House Oversight Committee. It's a video of Biden aide Mike Donilon testifying before the committee that if Biden won re-election in 2024, he, Donilon, would make an extra $4 million on top of the $4 million he was already making. Now, just to be clear, the House Oversight Committee, run by Republicans, is not looking into Trump's bribery scandals, is not looking into Trump's crypto scandals, is not looking into how Jared Kushner took $2 billion from the Saudis, and how that might be affecting the White House letting Bibi Netanyahu continue to bomb Gaza after Trump's magnificent ceasefire negotiations. That's me hemming.
Some people say Nobel Prize worthy, Blue Gal.
See, they are investigating Joe Biden and his 2024 presidential campaign based on information in Jake Tapper's book, Original Sin. Congratulations, Jake Tapper.
Way to go, Jake Tapper.
You gave James Comer ammunition against the Bidens.
Congratulations, man. Way
Congratulations.
But I'm sure it was worth every penny.
So yes, Mike Donilon testified that if Joe Biden won the 2024 election, he, Mike Donilon, would get an extra $4 million. Then here's the part of the story Megyn Kelly did not tell you in her 3,000 exclamation point podcast about this bombshell testimony. Mike Donilon testified that he advised Joe Biden to drop out of the race in the summer of 2024. So the story here is actually that Mike Donilon flushed $4 million down the toilet for what he perceived, rightly or wrongly, to be the good of the party and the country. But there is a hell of a lot of money available to political consultant jockeys whose horses go all the way to the White House, at least on the Democratic side. On the Republican side, those consultants already have on-air anchoring jobs at Fox News. Embarrassing moment of the week for Lindsey Graham as Punchbowl News reporter Andrew Desiderio tweeted, "Funny moment just now in the Senate, Lindsey Graham whispered something into his phone, and then Siri responded with full volume, calling Sean Hannity mobile." But back to the salaries for these political consultants and the reason so many on-air talking heads are going full shouty crackers for the reasonable center in politics. They are all auditioning for a behind-the-scenes paycheck for a political campaign. And they don't want to scare off any candidate who wants to win the Iowa caucuses. Notice how many of them are white men, and they have no interest in figuring out how to run in South Carolina beyond getting an endorsement from Jim Clyburn, who, by the way, endorsed Andrew Cuomo for mayor of New York.
Ugh.
I mean, and we should issue a correction here. We had a discussion with Bill on the Bill Show. Bill made the statement that Hillary Clinton had endorsed Cuomo. Mm-hmm. She did endorse Cuomo in 2018 for governor.
Right.
But since that time, he resigned and had, the investigation into his handsiness and so forth, and sexual harassment of employees, I think, to put it mildly. And she has not endorsed him since. Bill Clinton has endorsed him.
Right. During the primary, I think.
Yeah, during the primary. So, yeah, not Hillary. So I wanted to clarify that.
Well, I do want to add that one person who has endorsed him is Matt Iglesias, who said,
now.
Yeah, because, see, here's the thing. And I don't have the direct quote in front of me, but it was something to the effect that, look, he might have done it. He might not have done it. The details, who knows? But the whole Me Too thing is just toxic for the Democratic brand. So, if you want to get to these, let's say it, white, 50-year-old, conservative guys without a high school education, just, stop talking about all the sexual harassment and all the handsy stuff. That's a loser for Democrats. Just get on board. And the best way to show them that we're serious about getting over all this nonsense is to
vote for Andrew Cuomo.
Yeah. And like, Jesus Christ.
There's no other choice. There's no other choice to send a message to any voters, especially in New York City.
Sure. These people, I can't even anymore. I cannot even.
No. I think if you look at November of the year before the midterms for the past 4 to 6 election cycles, you find that consultants were pretty much doing the same thing that they're doing now, which is getting their name and their opinions out there to not only potential presidential candidates and Senate candidates, but also media outlets and big donors. And by the way, if anybody who thinks Kamala Harris was too liberal, I just can't.
Yeah.
He's a former prosecutor.
Yeah.
And on the spectrum of, this is why I think it's just about getting a white penis up there.
Yeah. Yep.
You do that, and then the debate changes. Because guys with trucks are going to look at the whole race differently. With a white guy, like they did in 2020.
Right. Scranton
Enough
Joe.
of them voted for Jolton Joe.
Scranton Joe.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, so they're trying to get their names and their opinions out there, not only to potential presidential candidates and Senate candidates, but also media outlets and big donors. And these consultants, this consultant class, does not have a particularly strong moral compass. They like money and they like access. And so, like, for example, Steve Schmidt, they're willing to take the money of someone like, the CEO of Starbucks, Howard Schultz. He thinks he'll make a good president of the United States. He has money.
Get him on the stage.
I'll get him on the debate stage. Yeah. And that was his job to do that. Now, I said that I thought maybe Steve Schmidt wasn't the best example, and Driftglass replied, oh, yes, he's the perfect example.
He's perfect. He's perfect because Steve Schmidt, well, let's say 3.0, 4.0, whatever it was after the Bush years and his years in the wilderness was, Donald Trump is a fascist who must be stopped at any cost. And I'm going to stand here and ask you for money for my Lincoln Project to stop Donald Trump, who is undoubtedly a danger to American democracy. Everyone went, oh my God, finally someone is telling the truth about Donald Trump. Let me write you big fat checks. And then once Howard Schultz started waving his money around, Steve Schmidt said, I think the real problem is on the one side you have Donald Trump fascism. On the other side you have AOC socialism. I think what we need is a moderate third way. A person who has progressive values but isn't on the extreme of either side. So he was just a miniature version. This is what they do. This is how they make their money. They pretend there's a center to be claimed, a moderate middle full of dumb voters just waiting for someone to pick them up. And if you just pay me enough fucking money, I will find them for you and deliver them to you, which they never do because they don't exist.
Right. So all these consultants are pretty bad in terms of moral compass and being willing to back whatever candidate will pay them.
Yeah.
And make an argument for that candidate because they're hired guns.
Yeah.
And there's not necessarily something terribly bad about that, but there also isn't something consistent or moral about what they do.
Oh, no.
And yet, if they can get their guy or woman into the White House, that certainly is a tremendous career launch for them.
Yes, it is.
They'll have a table at CNN for the rest of their lives.
Yes, they will.
And notice while we're having all of these conversations, only Bernie Sanders and liberal Democrats are talking about getting the money out of politics.
Yeah.
Because that's a pay cut for Tim Miller and Steve Schmidt if you get the money out of politics. But you know what polls amazingly well? Getting money out of politics. A recent email from the watchdog group Open Secrets points out, quote, the vast majority of Americans, and I assume there might be some 52-year-old high school educated white guys in this group.
There probably are.
No matter their partisan identification, say unlimited political spending weakens democracy and wealthy donors have too much power in elections. A new national poll indicates. And they'd like the government to do something about it.
Well, to be fair, the Republican government did do something about it. It was called Citizens United.
Yeah, well, nearly 8 in 10 respondents agreed with the statement that anti-corruption rules strengthen our democracy and constitutional rights by ensuring everyone has equal political representation regardless of money. Nearly 80% also said that they either strongly agree or somewhat agree that large independent expenditures by wealthy donors and corporations in elections gives rise to corruption or the appearance of corruption, unquote.
Yeah.
Now, I have a question for you, and it is a little bit of math.
Oh, God.
How many of the on-air consultants would take a $4 million pay cut to tell their candidate, who is president, to drop out for health reasons and age reasons?
I can think of one current president who's clearly out of his mind and is either had a stroke or syphilis or too much, whatever drug they're
and
giving
is
him.
Diminished by age.
Is diminished by age and whatever other, horrible shit he's done in his life that's catching up to him.
There isn't one person in that Oval Office, in that cabinet, in that group of people surrounding that president who will say to that president, you need to step down.
No, not one in the Senate, not one in the House,
Nope.
not one in the country, as far as I know.
None. And every time Republicans gain the White House and their president shits the bed, this is not the first time.
No.
I know Trump is an outlier, but he's not. If you remember the Bush administration, you know he's not. But always, after a Republican president shits the bed, there is a billionaire-funded rebranding effort. Do you remember Up With People, Driftglass?
I do. You meet them wherever you go.
Yeah.
Up with people. They're the best kind
Up
of
with
folks.
people, dancing, and forget about Watergate. It's just up with people. The Tea Party is billionaire funded. Glenn Beck got $1 million to promote that bullshit.
Uh-huh.
Then we had No Labels, Third Way, Purple Party, Matthew Dowd's entire career. There are always millions and millions of dollars available for these efforts. Now, traditionally, it is a job of on-air talking heads to shame Democrats into uniting the country by moving to the center. And I want to point out that, as I said before, one of my colleagues at Crooks and Liars said, I wish the Democrats would move to the center. They're way too far right.
Yeah, exactly.
But this includes, uniting the country includes an acceptance by Democrats that it is their job to not only clean up after Republican messes, which Obama had to do, but to accept the rebranding of Republicans for the next time, so that white voters always get a get out of responsibility free card. It's about absolving white Republicans from any guilt whatsoever for voting for a crook.
Yep.
They're not perfect. They're just forgiven every single time. Obama did 8 years of outreach to white Republican voters, and they turned around and voted for the king of the birthers.
Yeah. History is history.
Yeah. Well, no Republican should have ever been elected again after Nixon. And certainly after George W. Bush. He lied us into war.
And a bunch of other things.
And tortured people.
Yeah.
But here's the deal. Here's the difference. These voters reelected Donald Trump after January 6th.
Yep.
Their party in the Senate refused to remove him from office, which would have prevented him from running again.
Yep.
And all of that has changed the Democratic base.
There you go. There we go. Yep.
We are no longer surrendering our ideals for the common good because, God damn it, there is no common good anymore. Trump destroyed that on January 6th.
Mm-hmm.
And this shutdown is the test, right?
Yep.
It appears we as Democrats are going to let those Republican states and Republican food stamp recipients and Republicans who make up the majority of ACA subsidy recipients find out what it actually costs to vote for Republicans. Now, we have not done this before.
No.
And it's way past time we did.
Yep. Step out of the way. Out of the way.
And the thing is, this has been going on for decades.
Decades. Yep.
Where, I'm on Social Security and Medicare, but I vote Republican, but it's okay because the Democrats will make sure I get my Social Security and Medicare.
Keep your government hands off my Medicare.
Keep your government hands off my Social Security. Yeah.
Yep.
And we're done with that. We cannot protect you anymore. You put Trump in office.
Twice.
Twice.
You've used up all your mulligans.
Yes.
Now it's time for you to pay the price for
Well,
the
and
decisions
this
you
whole
made.
FAFO thing, this fuck around and find out thing that happened after January
Yeah.
and after November. The finding out part never has happened before in this way because Democrats cave in order to protect the social safety net that we really care about.
Uh-huh.
And Democrats welcome their Republican opponents back to the debate stage in a small D democracy exercise to make sure both parties are represented in a give and take of ideas.
Right.
Right? No more caving, no more debating. Republicans built all of this as sure as they demolished the East Wing of the White House. And I want to quote John Stower at the editorial board Substack. He wrote this past week, quote, "In essence, Trump and the Republicans are acting like they can do whatever they want to the people's government, even inflict serious pain in the belief that their base will stand behind them no matter what. They believe that they can hold their own people hostage to create leverage over the Democrats, and that the Democrats, in their rush to win over disillusioned Republicans, will pay their ransom. That kind of thing has worked for as long as I can remember. However, the Democrats have elevated or in the process of elevating the shutdown so that it's seen as a weapon against tyranny. After the No Kings protest and after Trump demolished the East Wing in response, and after a pardoned J6 insurrectionist threatened his life, Hakeem Jeffries said that the Democrats were fighting against corruption as much as they were fighting for affordable health care. We have an American president behaving like an organized crime boss, stealing taxpayer dollars in real time in front of everyone in plain sight, Jeffries said last week.
Wow.
Yeah. And the Republicans have nothing to say about the emerging crime scene at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. This is still John Stower. Importantly, the Democrats are positioning themselves so that victory can't come from Trump and the Republicans conceding to demands of policy. Whether to renew health insurance subsidies, for instance, victory can only come from them conceding to demands of power. Indeed, it's a demand so noble that it's worth pursuing at any cost. The Republicans are used to burning their own people as leverage. They are not used to Democrats saying, let them burn.
No.
Unquote.
That's new.
Yeah.
And tragically necessary.
Yeah.
And honestly, when you hear mixed in with all the whining about how unreasonable Democrats are and how, we should have an open tent. Why aren't you being more accommodating to the white guy who's 50 years old, blah, 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 blah. You hear a lot about liberal litmus tests, democratic litmus tests, how you just won't let anyone have any opinion other than the Stalinist party line, which is bullshit. Mm-hmm. There's plenty of liberal gun owners. There's plenty of liberal gun owners and hunters who live in Springfield. They have no problem going out and voting against Donald Trump because they love democracy. Mm-hmm. And they can recognize a fascist when they see one, and no one calls them on it. So the whole litmus test thing is green room bullshit. Mm-hmm. However, even if it were true that we put these impossible barriers for normal, law-abiding, God-loving citizens to leap over to get into our party, I haven't heard a single pundit talk about the Republican litmus tests. All the things you have to believe to be a member of the Republican Party. Democrats, we'd like it if you believed in climate change and science. That'd be great. If you believed a woman has rights to her own body, that'd be terrific. If you believed that people should be able to afford their health care, that'd be wonderful. We'd love all that. That's great shit. In common sense gun safety that 78% of Americans believe in. All Democratic positions, all these litmus tests test 60 to 70% with American public. Right. They're all policy-based. These are things we think we should have enacted into law or followed by statute or whatever. What are Republican litmus tests? You have to sound off that you believe that Donald Trump is sent by Jesus, that he's the greatest president who ever lived, that he's never made a mistake, that he's never lied, he never bribed a porn star. You have to sound off that January 6th was an act of nobility. The J6 rioters and insurrectionists were patriots, that the 2020 election was stolen, that Joe Biden stole the election, that Joe Biden is the most corrupt president ever. Because if you don't say any of that,
Biden crime family.
if you don't say that shit, you're out of the fucking party.
Yeah.
And what's more, you can be a Democratic gun owner and hunter and have a job in the government. Trump and his lackeys are making their fascist checklist condition of employment. You have to swear personal loyalty to Donald Trump. You have to make very clear that you believe 2020 was stolen. That is a fucking litmus test. And I haven't heard any pundits because they dismiss it as, well, that's just how Republicans are. What are you going to do? Democrats will cave, Republicans are nuts. That's the way it has to be always.
So this is very much like ending a marriage with a verbally abusive spouse and walking out. That's how I see this FAFO.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I really have to have you see the consequences of your actions.
Yep.
And the consequences of your actions are, we're out of here.
Yeah. And it's going to cause me pain. It's going to cause me a lot of inconvenience and suffering, but it's not worth it anymore.
No, it's not worth it anymore. And you are just irrational and abusive. And I don't have to tolerate this anymore.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to play a clip of me on an old video podcast I used to do back in 2008. This was talking about the Obama versus McCain election right after the 2008 Republican convention.
Oh, wait a minute. Are you remembering stuff, Blue Gal?
I'm remembering stuff.
You know the rule.
And how Republicans were behaving at the time. And I am going to warn you. I mean, you've suffered through this podcast so far with our voices. The 2008 poor microphone quality is very much present, and I apologize for that. Please bear with it. What I have to say is very germane to everything we're saying today. Just to kind of an illustration of everything old is new again.
I want to jump right into it today and just say I had a fascinating conversation this morning with my son, who was asking me in the car on the way to school about bullies and whether I had experienced any bullies in school. And I said, oh, yeah, sure I have. And he said, what were their names? And it took me a while to figure out the names of the bullies. I couldn't remember them, which is a good thing. But I finally did remember that one of them had the last name Cheney. And that leads into today's video blog. There have been a lot of fellow bloggers and fellow Democrats lately who have seemed so disheartened, and particularly with the convention, the Republican convention last week, which a lot of us watched and paid attention to. And I love what somebody at Crooks and Liars said about, disheartening the enemy is the first step towards victory. And certainly the Republican Party has worked very hard to dishearten the Democrats. And we have to stand up to that. We have to stand up to bullies. And I have this wonderful book called The Verbally Abusive Relationship. You don't need to know why I own this book. Just know that I know something about resilience. But I did want to read something from this because it's by Patricia Evans. And I think, we've been through, so much has been taken away from this country, and so much verbal abuse has been hurled at us. I mean, I was just thinking about Fred Thompson's speech and him saying, if John McCain can stand up to the Viet Cong, he can stand up to the angry left, and sort of putting us on a par with the Viet Cong. It's just a bit much, but it's a pattern, and it's important to watch for those patterns and stand up to them. And the way that we have to do that is exactly the way that someone who's being verbally abused needs to stand up to it. And it really has far less to do with what is being said to us and what is being said about us as to what is happening within our own sense of self and how we are able to focus on that, focus on who we are and what our rights are. I know there just seems to be so much fear on the part of the Democratic Party and on the part of my friends that somehow this election is going to be stolen from us in some way. Something bad is going to happen. And we need to stand up to that self-talk. That's just negative self-talk. And we have a responsibility to our country to flip that around and recognize and remember and focus on who we are, what our country is, and how to make it better. This has happened before. All of this has happened before with the robber barons and the massive deregulation in the late 19th century and the overarching power of industrialists and so forth. We're going through that whole cycle again. And one can remember that the progressive movement grew right out of that. And I'm not saying that the progressive movement was unbridled success. It wasn't. But a lot of good came out of that. And it's happening again. And we are going to be the ones who make this world a better place. And that's our job. So laugh along the way, but that's our job. I'm going to read very quickly, and then I'm done, because I've got to go fight the revolution, and so do you. When you respond to verbal abuse, know that when you are being put down, ordered around, yelled at, and so forth, you are being abused. And abuse is unjust, disabling, and destructive. And that word disabling is right on the money in terms of what the Republican Party is trying to do to the voter and to progressives. Remember that the abuser is not speaking in a rational adult way. Know that you are responding to a person or a political party who is in some way trying to control, dominate, or establish superiority over you. Know that you've done nothing to cause it. Know that it is not healthy to live in an abusive atmosphere. I was thinking about Ken Mellman, the RNC chairman, back in 2004 when he said, that the defeat of Joe Lieberman was emboldening Al-Qaeda types. And how rational is that? Respond with a tone of authority and firmness that shows that you mean business, are serious, and will not tolerate any more abuse. That's where we have to go. A final caution, and I love this part. Don't ever delude yourself into thinking that you should have the ability to stay serene no matter how you are treated. I'm going to read that again. A final caution. Don't ever delude yourself into thinking that you should have the ability to stay serene no matter how you are treated. You don't have to stay serene. You don't have to stay strong or chin up. You can get angry. We can all be angry on behalf of our party and our country. But we've got to not allow the abuse that has been thrown at us to stand, because it's a lie. And we know how to deal with lies.
I think a huge blind spot that never-Trumpers evidently have, is that they were never on the receiving end of the Republican hate machine until they got run out of the fascist party that they helped create. They just never saw it because it was all outgoing fire. It was all being fired at us. And they didn't give a shit because we were the enemy. Fucking trouncing liberals, calling them trash, calling them baby killers is what we do for a living. We were subject to this every single day. This was the life of a liberal. This is why liberals lived off their tip jars and wrote blogs, because we couldn't get work anyplace else. But we did it because we felt it was our patriotic duty to stand up against what we saw was happening inside the Republican Party. So having taken abuse and watching the base get more and more racist and more crazy every day, to have former Republicans tell us, here's how you're going to have to accommodate Trump voters, is beyond the fucking pale. Never-Trumpers were initially shocked when they got a face full of conservative hate thrown at them that we've had thrown in our face for decades. Tim Miller was busy having drinks with Dr. Jekyll while we were getting the shit kicked out of us by Mr. Hyde. And he didn't care, and they didn't care. Only when their house burned down, when their arsonists burned their house down. Suddenly they cared, they noticed, and now they want to make us into their party.
Yep. Now, I'm not sure the government in terms of a Republican Congress is ever going to reopen.
Yeah.
While the issue of releasing the Epstein files is on the table. They may never swear in the House member from Arizona.
Yeah.
I mean, they held open a Supreme Court seat for 2.5 years.
Yeah. Well, Trump has said, I'm the president and the speaker. So,
Yeah.
he runs everything.
But the pressure must remain only on the Republicans to return to Washington and work. And P.S., I love the videos of Democratic lawmakers walking around the Capitol building looking for a Republican.
Yeah.
Because they've all gone home.
And they ain't coming back.
And they ain't coming back because to come back means acknowledging a photo of Donald Trump with a partially nude 14-year-old child on his lap.
Yep.
And you know that because you looked at Pam Bondi's face in the Oversight Committee hearing.
Yeah.
When she was asked about it. And she could not utter a word. All she could do was open up her burn book and spew hate at Democrats.
Yep. Yep.
But she would not acknowledge or say anything in answer to that question because she would have perjured herself.
Right. And it's worth pointing out the only people pushing back even marginally against this are people like Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Right.
Who are personally affected.
Right.
By ACA cuts, by SNAP benefit cuts, by Medicaid cuts. Whose people are going to get nuked by this shit.
Josh Hawley, same thing.
And I'm sure she's hearing from him like, I'm going to starve. My family will have nothing.
And I'm going to have no health insurance next year.
I voted for you. And they promised the Epstein files. What are you going to do about it?
And they still really care about the Epstein files.
They sure as shit do.
That is something that has not gone away.
No. And
you programmed them to care about that because it was going to be Democrats on there.
Yeah, because it was
going to be Bill Clinton.
Right. And if it is, put him in jail. Fine.
Yeah. Now, we have some local news to share with you. In local news, the murderer of Sonia Massey has been found guilty. And this made the New York fucking Times.
Yeah, all the way to the national news, yeah.
Quote, ex-Illinois deputy convicted in fatal shooting of woman who had called 911. Sean Grayson was charged with murder in the 2024 death of Sonia Massey, who was holding a pot of hot water when she was shot at her home near Springfield, Illinois. Sonia Massey called 911 last year seeking help, concerned that someone was lurking outside her Illinois home. When two sheriff's deputies arrived on that summer night, they looked through the yard and found no one hiding. Then they knocked on the front door, engaged Ms. Massey in polite conversation, and stepped inside her house. The discussion remained cordial until one of the deputies asked Ms. Massey to remove a pot of hot water from her stove. After picking up the pot, Ms. Massey said, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus." In a matter of seconds, the deputies pulled their guns, and one of them, Sean Grayson, fatally shot Miss Massey in the head. The shooting prompted outrage in central Illinois, where protesters marched. Mr. Grayson, who was fired by the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office, was charged with murder. On Wednesday, jurors convicted Mr. Grayson of second-degree murder in Ms. Massey's death, a relatively rare instance of an American law enforcement officer being convicted in an on-duty shooting. During the trial in state court that lasted about a week, prosecutors accused Mr. Grayson of needlessly escalating the encounter with Ms. Massey, failing to follow his training, and acting unreasonably when he shot her. And by the way, his deputy went out to get first aid to her, and Sean Grayson said, "Don't do it."
Yep.
On the film.
Yep.
On the body cam. "We are here because of the actions of the defendant, and Sonia Massey is dead because of the defendant." John Milheiser, the top prosecutor in Sangamon County, told jurors, "Send anyone else, anyone, and Sonia Massey is alive." Mr. Grayson shot Miss Massey just outside of Springfield, the capital of Illinois, where protesters gathered frequently after the shooting. The Sangamon County Sheriff resigned over the incident, and local leaders created a Massey Commission to recommend policy changes related to systemic racism and mistrust in law enforcement. Some residents questioned why Mr. Grayson, who had twice been convicted of driving under the influence, had been hired in Sangamon County, unquote.
Yeah.
If he wasn't going to prison, he could be an ICE agent.
Well, and it's important to note here that this is how sensible, progressive people handle police abuse.
Yeah.
Nobody's screaming to defund the police. If you go back to this goddamn report, it features in there in a couple of places that, progressives want to shut down prisons, defund prisons and police. And average voters don't like that. They don't approve of that. No Democrat ran on that. It is not part of any Democratic platform anywhere. It seeped into the public consciousness because it was repeated on Fox News a jillion fucking times.
Yeah.
Not because anybody thought that was
right-wing podcasts. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
That's where average white male gets his fucking opinions. Yeah. This, on the other hand, is how progressives handle these problems. Protest, form a commission, demand investigation, seek justice, and when justice is done, thank everyone.
Yeah.
And then you move on to the next.
And move on and continue your work.
Yes.
There's a lot of work to be done in improving race relations when it comes to the sheriff's department in Sangamon County.
Yes, there is.
All right. Thank you for putting up with our voices and our coughs and everything else. I promise we'll be better next week, although this cold is dragged on for a week for me.
You know what they say, honey?
What?
It isn't the cough that carries you off.
Oh.
It's the coffin that carry you off.
Oh, okay.
Little Halloween
humor there.
Yeah.
Each week we post to our Patreon page and website an Internet Kitty sent in by you, the listeners. This week's Internet Kitty is a dog named Petunia.
Ooh.
Petunia is a 4-year-old Chihuahua whose favorite time of year is Halloween. In this photo, she is sporting her Halloween costume. She is going trick-or-treating as a scaly ghost and hopes to get lots of freshly poured Halloween treats. And of course, Petunia eats freshly poured pet food, our fake sponsor. Whether you serve Pet Store Perfection or Dollar Store Dreck, your pets would float above the kitchen floor saying boo and demand that the food they eat is only freshly poured.
Freshly poured, freshly poured. Oh my Lord, it's freshly poured.
And you can visit Petunia in her ghost costume, Happy Halloween Petunia, at our Patreon page, patreon.com/proleftpod, or our website, proleftpod.com. And you can send your Internet Kitty, dog, or other pet to us at our email address, proleftpodcast@gmail.com, or you can also write to both of us. Feel free to write us. We love hearing from you. Be aware that if you write to us at any of our addresses, we reserve the right to read your email or U.S. Postal Service, Go Postal Unions, letter on the air unless you say otherwise. We have a short letter to share with you that we received with a $5 bill enclosed just today.
Just today.
It goes like this. I am 81. My wife is 77. I am a veteran. I served from 1963 to 1967. That makes me a Vietnam-era vet. I was in Tripoli during the 6-day gun run in May of 1967. We, along with our eldest son, who is our caregiver, listen and replay your broadcasts. I am so ashamed what has happened to this country. But thanks for sharing. Your explaining Huck Finn was a real lesson. Thank you. Wish we could give more money, but we do what we can.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your service. Thank you for sharing your experience with the podcast, your kind words, and your $5 contribution. It really means a lot to us.
It does. And I noticed that when you did your Petunia announcement in a higher register, your voice cleared up a little bit. So I'm going to try. A friendly reminder about our gourmet coffee guideline. Oh, God, it works. I should have done the whole thing about this. If you're able to treat yourself to an espresso-based beverage, we ask that you consider treating us to one as well. This isn't charity. It's how we support. This is my normal voice. I tell people that. Support the work we do. If you can spare just $5 a month, we'd be very grateful for your support at patreon.com/proleftpod. And before my voice gives out, please find someone and share the show with them. We really do appreciate it.
Hey, Driftglass, how are the Internet Kitties doing this week?
Here we go. The Internet Kitties will remind you that Morton, Illinois is officially called the pumpkin capital of the world because it processes most of the world's canned pumpkins at the Libby plant. Also, have a safe and happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. And happy birthday, Driftglass.
Thank you, beautiful.
Let's think about living.
Think about living.
Let's think about loving.
Think about loving.
Let's think about the hooping and the hopping and the popping and the lovey-dovey.
Lovey, lovey, lovey.
Let's forget about the wine and the crying, the shooting and the dying. and the fellow with a switchblade knife. Let's think about living. Let's think about life.
The Professional F podcast is recorded under a Creative Commons license. Copyright 2024-25, GGBG Productions.